Good afternoon, everyone. And as we turn to 11:30 exactly, we are getting started. My name is Matt Leschberg with 1836 Property Management, as always in beautiful downtown Austin, Texas. It's going to be sunny today. We're coming out of the winter season. Had a lot of rain lately, but it's going to be a beautiful sunny day. And Victor Cianci is with me today. We're going to discuss why streamlined utility connection services matters. So what does that even mean? Well, if you've got a tenant, they've got to have a utility connection of some sort, right? Either they're doing it, you're doing it. I got to tell you though, no one wants to sit on the phone with anybody, and you are caller 87. That's just a miserable way to spend your day, especially with multiple utility providers. As a property management company here in Austin, we have over 850 current properties that we manage, which means at least 850, but closer to 1,600 adult residents in those properties. And so we need to assist them with that. Victor with Citizens Home Solutions. So he's got it in the chat window. If you guys have any questions, Citizens Home Solutions, and we'll make sure you get his information before our time is out today. He's one of our licensed, experienced, knowledgeable vendor partners. We count on these guys to deliver the best services in the greater Austin area to our tenants, our residents, if you will. So Citizens Home Solutions provides concierge utility connection services that will also help your tenants find the best deal. And we're going to jump into this today and explain what that even means. What are concierge utility connection services? I mean, don't you just pick up the phone and start dialing around? And we'll get into that and help you understand it a little bit better if you're not that familiar. So today there is a Q&A on your screen. It's on the right side. So if you have any questions, feel free to pop those in the chat today if you are watching with us. And fortunately, if you're watching this in a recording, you won't be able to do so, but we will get you our contact information. So if you have any questions afterwards for myself, for Victor, you can certainly reach out to us after that. We may or may not address your question right away, depending on where we are in the flow of today's conversation, but we will make sure you get answers one way or the other. So, Victor, tell us a little bit about yourself and Citizen Home Solutions.
Yes, of course. I appreciate y'all having me here. And great intro from Matt in terms of who we are and kind of why we exist. I think when you really sit back and look at why Citizen Home Solutions exists in the first place, we're really there to support the resident during one of the most difficult times of their life, which is moving in general, but moving into a new home. So we're there to assist with, as Matt said, all of the utility connection services, and we offer some an additional suite of services through some of the partnerships that exist out there. So we'll get into that later in the webinar. But just background on myself, I head up our sales division over here. I'm the vice president of sales at Citizen. I've actually been here a short time, 6 months, but in the industry for about 10 years at this point. So very familiar with the property management world and really the single family rental world in general. So happy to be a part of the discussion and kind of kick things off here.
It's awesome. Thank you, Victor. Hopefully we can give people something to take away today that they can use. And if nothing else, a little knowledge will go a long way. So why streamlined utility connection services matter. Today, we're going to cover a few different topics. We're going to talk about the types of utilities that you guys work with. We're going to talk about the processes and timelines because nothing happens immediately. We're going to talk about savings for people. So you're going to actually help them shop or help them select because this is what you guys do, specifically in deregulated areas. The majority of this, but not all of it. So we have some areas that are, some that aren't. Nothing's simple, right? Especially dealing with government. And then why this matters to property owners. You know, if you're watching this and you're an investor, why are you even watching this? Why should you care about this? Is it going to save you from headaches? Is it going to keep the residents happy? Well, let's talk a little bit about that. So let's jump into the first section of that, if it's all right with you, Victor, and talk about the types of utilities. What utility services does Citizen Home Solutions assist with? And just tell us what you're dealing with on an ongoing basis.
Yeah, for sure. I think when you think utilities, you think of the three most common that we run into: electric, water, and then gas, as it relates to most properties across the country. We do trash kind of falls into that, depending on where you're at. Sometimes it is included with one of the other one of the utilities specifically, but those are the primary three that we see when working with most of our property management partners. Strangely enough, as you start to kind of progress through that, there are some options, a little bit of optionality depending on the MSA and location that you're in. Sometimes there's multiple electric providers, sometimes there's multiple gas providers. We do all of that research on our end. So going into it, when we are going to a property to assist, we've already done the research. In some cases, the property's already come across our plate in the past. So the lookup information is there. But that is one of the benefits on our end is we have all of the team to go and do the research. So whether it's our property management partners, the owners of the properties, or the residents, none of them have to go and look up that information. We're kind of getting ahead of it as part of our service offering to the group.
So water, electric, gas, those are some of the basics. You mentioned trash. Are there other services that you guys work with? What else would fall into the bundle when you connect with a resident or an investor for that matter and say, we're here to help you? What else falls under that? Are there any other providers?
There are. So when you think utilities specifically about getting, I think about those items that will satisfy the lease at the point of move-in most cases, right? Most of our property management partners are saying, hey, new resident, please put this into your name. This is part of the agreement that you're signing with us. That typically is the big three there. We, in terms of where we've been able to monetize the business and how we've really, frankly, how we're able to exist in the space is through those affiliate partnerships that Matt's alluding to. So we offer different options for internet, cable in some cases. You have your lawn maintenance, pest control services, a lot of things that the resident moving in has to think about and start to plan for as part of living in the home. And so that's where we're able to kind of work with our partners a little bit. Now, we don't charge for those additional services. And frankly, we don't charge for the utility connection services to the property management partner or to the resident, which makes my job really easy when we come into it because we're selling services. We're not, though. We're there to facilitate the transfer of all of these things and the setup of all of these different services. So, but yeah, that's a little bit about, and we'll get into more of the details of how this all exists. But that's
for our residents and our investors, I got to tell you, just like you said, that moving is one of those life events, right? And some of those events aren't so positive, and I don't know anybody that loves to move, and it's just difficult. Your stuff is everywhere. You don't know where anything is. You move to a new city or even the other side of the city. There is no one that comes to knock on your door that you want to knock on your door and says, hey, here are all your options. So you don't have to just start Googling and are these guys reputable? Are they not? So you guys as a company provide options to people so that with a phone call or two, you can get everything dialed in. Obviously, water, electric, gas, if you have gas on the property, those are some things everybody's going to need, but I don't know anybody living without internet anymore. Now, maybe you're streaming or what, you're going to get internet. I mean, it's just, whether you like it or not, that's where we're at. So some of these other things too, pest control services, if you're renting property, I'm going to probably guess that you want to have some pest control there because it may or may not have been well maintained, but no one wants to live with this pest. And so having that regular service, and then lawn maintenance, if you're a renter, you're not going to go get a lawnmower and start reviewing your own. You're just going to pay somebody, because when you leave, then you can cut that off and move on with your life. So I think this is super valuable to any of our investors and residents, and to keep the residents happy. So second topic we had mentioned earlier is going to be processes and timelines. So how does this function? All right, so we've got a resident, they're moving. When do we talk to them? When are services turned on? What does this look like for you guys?
Yes, so in going through the process, what we're starting to learn is being involved earlier in the leasing process is beneficial for all parties involved for a number of reasons. One, we're a familiar name and face then, right? When we engage with the resident, it's to your point, there's a lot of companies that probably enter their world, their ecosystem when they move, when they relocate. That information's out there, or whatever information they put out there at that point, they're being contacted by these parties. So what we found is the earlier we're involved in the leasing process, whether it's at the point of the application, whether it's the language that we provide for the lease agreement itself or the welcome email, getting our information out there and simply saying, hey, please be on the lookout for Citizen. They're going to contact you to help facilitate the setup of these few items. has really, it's done a couple of things. It's made that experience more comfortable for the resident, which is important, obviously, for the property manager. But it's also made it so that we're able to convert at a higher percentage for some of those ancillary services. We haven't touched on this yet, but we do have a revenue share program with our property management partners and affiliate partners, which is how we monetize, but then how we're also able to give back for the referral, essentially, which is that residence information coming through. Going back to the timeline element of this, so once the move-in report is delivered to citizens, so and this happens a number of ways. Sometimes it's automated report, sometimes it's as simple as filling out a form or sending an email. We get the resident's move-in information that says, hey, Matt's moving in 5 days, and we need to help facilitate the setup of utilities. We then do all of that property research that I spoke about ahead of actually reaching out to Matt to say, hey, here's the options that exist. So we do have, typically when we receive that information, we'll contact Matt within 24 hours or the resident within 24 hours in that case, to let them know this is kind of the process. Having done all of the research, it's usually about a 20 to 30 minute phone call with the resident to make sure that they've gotten all of the information that they need as it relates to moving in for their core utilities and those other services. That experience, if they were to do it on their own without using Citizen or someone like Citizen, it could be somewhere in the ballpark of 3 to 5 hours within probably 3 to 5 different phone calls and wait time and callback time and making sure you're available in that, call it 9 to 5 window that the utility providers might be available. So we kind of take that experience and make it customized to their situation where we're able to actually help facilitate at a time that makes sense for them and makes sense for whether their work schedule or home life schedule, whatever it might be. So, and most importantly, getting it set up ahead of their move-in so that when they come into the property, everything has already been established. So we do that in, again, a period of 24 hours, but typically the full setup is about 3 days from initial phone call until they're in with utilities turned on and ready to go.
And hopefully these folks are signing leases, wait 2-3 weeks out if they're able to. But I got to tell you, as far as use of time, nobody wants to find out on moving day that they forgot something. Oh, I did water, electric. I didn't know there was gas. I mean, I signed the lease, but I didn't read the lease, right? And so you guys are going to help with all of that stuff, but it's just a way for them to get everything done. I don't know. I mean, I don't have a personal assistant, but it's almost like having a personal assistant at no cost to help you move into this house when your life is kind of in chaos and flux, if you will. So I have no detriments. There's no but to this story. There's no yes, but that doesn't exist. This is just a win-win for everybody all the way around, unless you just love sitting on hold, which I don't think anybody wants to be honest. So let's talk about the savings. Are you guys able to, some areas, city of Austin, well, this is what you're going to have whether you like it or not. Some areas, Round Rock, things like that, deregulated, which is just part of our area. You guys know obviously which areas are, which are not. When it comes to, let's just throw this out like an electric provider. How many are there in Texas? Hundreds?
Not always hundreds, but in certain areas, there's a ton of different options, and it's our responsibility and commitment. Put it this way, we're utility agnostic in the sense that we just want to provide whichever option makes the most sense for the resident in the area that they're in. And there's a number of factors, electric maybe being one of them, but internet, for example, we will always guide the resident to a package that makes sense based on their situation. So we'll ask guiding questions in some cases. Do they work from home? Do they stream regularly? Are they on the internet 4 hours a day, or are they on the internet for 4 minutes a day? And how they consume internet in that case is how we'll kind of guide them to what makes sense for their situation. So our teams do a really good job of making sure they're kind of diagnosing the situation with the resident to offer the best services that exist. Something I didn't touch on earlier was security systems as well. That's typically a scary thing for owners, right? Like, you don't want locks changed. You don't want people drilling into your walls all over the place and doing all of these things. We've found with the providers that we use that they're a non-permanent way to feeling safe in the home and providing security options. So most of the equipment that attaches is attached through 3M strips. Nothing gets hardwired. There's not a lot of mounting. Maybe the doorbell would be the one exception if you had the camera where you're swapping out the existing doorbell, still within that same standard doorbell frame though, where it's not going to cause crazy damage to the property and all of these things. So And that's something that the resident can then invest in and take with them should they ever leave the property. They have all of the window sensors and door sensors should they choose to take some of that. So we're looking at solutions that are convenient for the resident. It really gives them the sense of security in their home, but is also going to be beneficial to the property manager and the owner, where we don't have all of these things that we have to undo now when there is turnover at the property. So we will provide the options that make the most sense for the resident, and we help guide them. But it's on us to do all the research ahead of time so that we're making sure that we're efficient in the time that we have.
Well, and because you guys are available, you've done all that research. Time is money. And so even if they say, well, are you saving me money here or there? Well, yes, we are, because we're going to give you options. We're going to have knowledge that you don't have. We may even provide some solutions you didn't know existed or recommendations. But you're not spending 5 hours arguing with somebody overseas on the phone, trying to just get services on. So time is money. And so whether you look at it on the front side or the back side, it's just an easy thing for residents to do. And again, there's no downside to this. So I'm not sure why they ask for help.
You're absolutely right. And so from an actual, I think it's important to call out that in some cases, although we may not necessarily save the resident money, they will never pay more for ordering the services through us than what they would get out at the market rate, right? So if AT&T or Spectrum or one of these internet or cable providers has some type of promotion going on in their area, they're going to get that same promotion through us. In some cases, we just based on national buying power, maybe the rates are actually better with us through a couple of those. They'll never be higher than market rate though for the resident, which I think is an important takeaway, where it's like, yes, I'm trading my time in this case, but am I paying more for the service as a result? And that simply isn't the case with our programs.
Just to know what options are out there, to me, seems very valuable, because we often default to the big brands, right? Because, oh, well, it doesn't matter if I name anybody, but this big brand, is going to provide a solution. I forget it. I just want to get it done, so I'll sign up. But I remember being years ago in college, and there was a local provider. And that local provider was half the cost and probably better because they were local. They were trying to grow their business. I knew people that had that, and I wish I did. But I didn't know any better when I signed up. So having a resource that can just say, hey, these are your options. You don't have to do this right this second, but even if you want to Google them and dig into it, or if there's anything we can provide for you, knowing what those options are is super valuable. So a lot of our people that watch these are investors, and obviously we have some residents as well. So to the property owners, to the person who's out there renting their property, trying to make residents happy, why does this matter to them? Is this going to be something that makes a difference in their life?
The easiest thing to always go back to is one way to help kind of eliminate that utility, we call it a utility float cost, but occasionally when there's a move in or a move out for that matter, there's this period of time between residents where the utilities are in someone's name. And when the resident moving into the property fails to put the utilities into their name, oftentimes that window, that gap of time that the utilities are running and active but aren't being charged to the past resident, and the new resident hasn't made the switch, that space, that utility float is often billed back to the owner, which does a couple of things. It creates more time on their end where they're trying to balance this and figure out why they have this new utility bill. But then on the other piece, it's the actual cost of that utility, right? So, or those utilities in most instances when that happens. So that's a big advantage to the owner right off the bat, is that we're helping reduce the at least the risk of the utility float between residents. So, and I think the other thing is providing this strong resident experience, which often goes back to it reflects on the property management company, but it does most of the time. That the positive experience keeps the resident in place longer in many cases. And so now you're reducing turnover when that experience is positive. And I'm not going to take all of the credit for the positive experience, but we do feel like we can contribute in a positive manner to that overall experience, and hopefully save the owners money at the point of the turn, or at least extending the time between turn for many of these properties. So those are just a couple of things as it relates to kind of how it reflects back to the owner.
We always read books about how people make up their mind when they meet you in the first so many seconds, whatever that is. And during a residency, if you drop the ball a couple times or things are really difficult right when you're getting these people signed up, their moving day is going to be difficult already, right? And things are not going to go well. But if you can make their life easier and better and deliver a smoother experience, the rest of the tenancy seems to go in that same vein. But if it's brutal when they get in there, it's really hard to change how they feel about you. If you did everything else right, they're still going to go back to that negative feeling, which was first installed into their opinions, right? And so I think this is one of a lot of feathers in the hat that investors can use to really deliver a great service so that you have a happy residents who are more likely to take care of your property. They're more likely to stay. And as you touched on renewals, I don't think we in the industry talk enough about how valuable it is to keep residents in place. When you create a turnover, you create vacancy costs, leasing fees, maintenance that could have been delayed or not used. So if you have a tenant turnover every 2 years versus every 4 years, you're doing twice the maintenance between residents because you're going to have to clean the carpets, paint the walls, do all that good stuff and get it fresh and pretty again. But boy, if you could just avoid that, now you're holding everything is better. So that resident experience is not about, I think we have some novice investors that come in and think, well, this is good enough for my tenants. Well, that's a really selfish, short-sighted way of looking at things instead of saying, I don't want to waste money, but if I can deliver a great experience, it will come back to me because we're all in this together. And so just looking at the whole instead of just kind of being short-sighted, I think is a much more productive way to ensure that your property, your residents are more productive for years versus, well, it's good enough. And then you wonder why you're churning through them every year because they don't like you or they don't like your choices and your services or whatever that might be. So just giving them this positive experience on the front side from Citizen Home Solutions is one huge feather in that process to make their life better, make them want to stay and have a positive experience and making your property more productive. So, Victor, is there anything we forgot today that we need to go over before we kind of wrap up?
I think just in general, in terms of the direction of our business as it relates to the property management role, we're just realizing more and more that there really are, from our end, 3 customers that we serve through this, which I think we touched on through this, but it is the resident, right? The end experience with the resident is what ultimately reflects back to the property manager. So making sure that they're happy is priority one for us. And I think that's, in most cases, if the property management partner is doing a good job, is also important to them. So we focus a lot on the resident experience, but we're very much invested in making sure that owners, property managers, and residents are having a positive interaction and experience with us. So one thing that we're in the process of doing is taking a more digital approach to how we're able to support some of the residents. So going back to the timing, right? You can't always take a call. If you're working midday, it's tough to take a utility call, even if it's with us for 20 minutes. So we're moving to a platform that will allow for ease of scheduling, finding times that make the most sense for the resident. Because right now the way that we operate is we'll call 3 times, email 3 times, text 3 times to reach someone. After that, they're kind of out of our ecosystem. We don't want to bug the resident, right? The goal is to help support them. So giving them this way to digitally order services in some cases, definitely schedule appointments in some cases, seems to be the way that our consumers kind of have an appetite for it, I think, in general. So we're moving towards that a little bit, but I don't think you'll ever take the full personal touch out of utilities in general. As many know, the utility boards across the country have varying levels of, in some cases, you have to show up in person and bring 11 forms of identification, and you can only pay with a cash or check on site, and it's like, until some of those things are caught up, it can't be fully digital, but we are taking an approach to at least offering some more optionality as it relates to how you interact with citizens. So I think that's on our end is kind of what's big and on the horizon there. We're investing in our people and in our tech platform to support at all levels. So that's what we have on the citizen front.
I think we forget that there are people, and we always go back to, who do you want to be your residents? And maybe this is stereotypical, but police, firefighters, teachers, people like that, the fabric of our community, that's who you want. Well, I don't see a teacher cutting out for 20 minutes in the middle of a classroom of third graders and
No,
just taking a call and letting the kids run amok. I don't see a police officer just stopping in the line of duty to take a 20-minute utility call. So it doesn't matter. So I think you guys giving an experience that meets them where they are enables us to get those great citizens into these properties. And I really appreciate that you guys are just recognizing the environment that people live in, and that it's not about whether they want to take your call. They've got important things to do. So the fireman's not going to just jump off the truck because the utility provider calls. He's got to go take care of business. So you guys meeting them kind of where they are really, I think is spectacular, because it's a service business, right? We have to serve people, and if we're telling them how things are, it doesn't always work out so well. Are you guys expanding into any other areas? I heard a little nugget somewhere that you may offer additional services somewhere along the line.
we are. So we're in the process. I think a couple of things. Expanding on the services we already offer is one avenue, right? So offering even more optionality as it becomes available to us, I think, is important. But we're looking at all ways that we can improve that resident experience and ultimately the customer experience at the point of move-in. Also looking to potentially offer move-out services. So I think those same move-in services, moving trucks and vehicles at the front end when you're moving is one thing. Having that same experience on the back end is something that we're interested in. Even things like the final mow of the season to make sure that that's all done and residents are in a good place. They're moving out in the winter where they're leaving the home and maximizing what they can get from their security deposit. So we're looking at ways to kind of help improve on that part of the experience as well. A lot more to come in terms of the actual services that exist out there. I think right now our time is very much invested in the full digital experience, and we'll continue to add those affiliate partners as we see fit and with what makes sense for consumer demand. So it's kind of where we're at.
I love it, Victor. Well, I'm going to pop your company's contact information here in the chat window.
Yep.
So if anybody wants to reach out after this, has any questions, they know where to find you guys. After that, I'm going to pop ours in here. If you've got any questions about real estate investing, whatever it may be for Central Texas, or just about anything real estate investing, we're happy to address any questions you have, as well as refer you to people if they're outside the city. Or we've got a lot of partners around the nation that we know of as well and trust, so we can do that for you. And Victor, mostly I just want to thank you for being a great vendor, a great colleague, and taking care of our clients, and taking the time to kind of sit with us today and just help our investors become a little bit more educated about what you guys provide.
Incredible. No, we really appreciate the opportunity to speak in front of everyone, and we obviously appreciate our partnership with you all. So more to come for sure.
Thanks so much for your time, Victor. Again, if you want to reach out to him or Citizens Home Solutions, you've got their contact information for you on the chat window. We will see you on our next Crowdcast in June with one of our other preferred vendors. And reach out to any of us if we can help you with anything. We're here to make you more successful. This is a service business, and that's what we should be delivering. So we're available for you, Victor and myself. We wish you guys the best that May has to offer. And Victor, please visit us if you're ever in Austin, Texas. Same with any investors watching today. We're on South Congress. We'd love to see you in person.
Incredible. I really appreciate it. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, team.
Have a great rest of May, guys. We'll see you in June.